Good morning all, Coop here, or at least it's morning for me, whatever time of day it is for you, wherever you're watching from. I hope you're ready to learn, I hope your brain is massaged and ready to soak up some information, because in this tutorial we're going to look at drawing lines in your game in Unity, so not just the debug function, we're actually going to look at drawing some lines that will exist in the game itself at runtime, and we're going to do that by using the cool little line renderer component that Unity provides. Now it's really easy. The line renderer itself is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it, and I'll just show you how it sort of is configured to begin with. I'll just create an empty game object and I'll call it line holder, and I'll center it first of all just because it makes me feel better, and I'm going to add a line renderer component to it. So seems to be a fair bit of stuff going on here, but it's nothing too much to worry about. I'm going to set a couple of initial settings first of all, and then we'll sort of go into detail on how it actually works. Probably before we do that, I should show you how the scene is set up, just in case you are following along. I do have the camera in here, it's black, the background set to black because I do that, I like doing that, I don't know why. I have an empty game object that I've just attached a script to, and that script is a C# script called draw lines, which is down here. There's nothing in it, it's empty. I've removed start and I've removed update, and I've just left it blank. We'll get to that shortly. Saved copy of the scene, obviously, and I've got a material here. It's a green color just because I felt like it, and it's a sprite default just to make it a bit more vibrant, and because I'm not too fussed about it having shading and shadowing and whatever. It is a 2D project. Currently it's set up that way just because it's easier for me to work with, but this will work in 3D or 2D. The line renderer works fine with both. We're actually going to be giving it vector 3s, so it should be fairly adaptable to whatever you're doing. Might be a couple of settings, but we'll try and cover those as we go. Cool, so now that you know how the scene's set up, let's have a look at the line renderer component and figure out how it works. So I'm going to turn a couple of settings off that are just sort of relevant to this project. I don't need it to cast shadows, and I don't care if it receives shadows. I just want it to be a nice vibrant line on the screen. We have our materials array here, so I'm going to put that green material in it. That's going to make the line that nice vibrant green color. Let's see, what else do we have here? Use world space. Yeah, I'll do that. It's 2D, so it doesn't really matter. You can loop the line, so you can tell it if you've got more than one point, because that's a cool thing about line renderers. They don't have to be just point 1 to point 2. You can have many different points. You can actually loop them if you turn this on, and I'll show you that working. We have the width of our line. So one, with this camera setup, one is actually quite big, so I'm going to drop that significantly. I'm just going to turn it to 0.1. Play with that and you'll see what settings work for you. The color, I'm just going to ignore. These two here, I'll show you. The vertices, we'll show you those as we go. They're pretty cool. And that's pretty much all I need to worry about. I might change the order and layer later because we will use a couple of sprites, but for now, everything else should be fine. So all those settings are in place. Let's have a look at the positions. These vector 3s here. So the positions is just an array of vector 3s that the line renderer has, and it uses these to determine how to draw its line. So I'm just going to set the Z position to Z on that. It doesn't need to be anything because it's 2D. And at the moment you can see the two positions are exactly the same. They're both at 0, 0, 0. So dead center. If we actually adjust these, we should be able to see a line. So I'm going to put it at, let's make it go from left to right. So it's going to start at -2 on X and go to +2 on X. We won't make it go up or down. So that's pretty easy. Let's just -2 for the first point, and we can see the line appears, and we'll set +2 for the second position. There it is. So it works exactly like a normal array. There's just that array of positions, and there are a couple of functions to interact with it. We'll get to those soon, but you can see the line there. So it's pretty much as advertised. It's just a line. As I mentioned too, you can have more than one point. So let's have a bit of a look at that. Let's make a square. Let's give it 4 points. So we'll keep similar. Let's make it let's say -2. 2 on the y-axis, which makes it this top point up here. We're going to say +2, 2, now takes it up there. And for this one, we want it to be 2, -2 to drop down a bit. And for the last one, we'll make it, what's it going to be? It's going to be -2, 2. No, -2, -2. That's better. And once again, you can see it's not a complete square, so if we just click loop, there you go, it should complete the square. That's all nice and cool. So you can sort of see how it works. Using the arrays, you basically just define the points of that line, and based upon the material that you've given it and a few other things, like I'll show you the width. There you go, there's 1. So it just depends what you're trying to do. For most cases, I'm pretty sure you just want something more like that, but you know, it's up to you. So you could use this as a straight line between 2 points, or you could use it to outline objects or to draw a box on the screen, whatever you want to do. There's so many different uses, and you can do all this at runtime too. You don't have to do it all in the inspector here. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Let's write a bit of a script, shall we? I'm just going to set these back to 0. And that's another cool point as well. If these are set to 0 like this, you're not actually going to see the line. So it's a good little default state to work from if you don't want the line to be displayed until you've actually set the properties. That's a way to do that. So let's have a look at the script. As I said, we're just going to have that one script, draw lines. It's currently attached to the line manager game object that's in the scene. That's the only thing attached to it. So it's just going to run from that. We'll bring it up. I think first of all, I'll just show you very easily how the coding for the line renderer works. So I'm just going to start with the start function, and I'm just going to put something like spawn line generator, because we're actually going to create a prefab and use that. We haven't got that function yet. Let's create a variable 2 just for a game object to hold that prefab. What are we calling it? It's a game object, private game object. Line generator prefab. That'll do. Cool, and we'll just quickly create that spawn line generator function. This is where we're going to do all the fun stuff. So we're going to spawn line generator. Okay. What do we want to do? Alright. First thing we'll do, I'd say, is probably create a copy of that line generator object. So that's going to be a copy of the line holder. I should have called it generator in the scene as well, my bad. The line holder that's in the scene, we're going to use that as a prefab. It's already got our material set and our width set and all that stuff, so we don't need to worry about that. The only thing we're really going to do is create the line generator in the scene, set the positions of the line renderer, and then we'll maybe destroy it after a couple of seconds just to get rid of it. You should see it all working. So we're going to keep this easy. First of all, let's create a new temporary game object. We'll call it new line gen, because it's going to be a new line generator. It's going to be instantiate. It's going to be really easy because we don't care where it goes. So what is it? It's line. Oops, why did I give that a capital? What am I doing? There we go. Line generator prefab, and we're just going to spawn that in the scene. That's all we need to do right now. We're going to grab the line renderer attached to it, so we'll create a temporary line renderer. We'll call it lrend. It's going to equal new line gen dot get component. Oh, there we go, line renderer. So we've created the new line generator object. Once it's created, we then get the line renderer from it, and we store a reference to it. Okay, so I think in the first case, let's just recreate that straight left to right line. All we want to do, so we know that by default there are 2 positions in the line renderer's array. So setting those 2 positions is simply a matter of getting the line renderer again and just saying set position. Now if we have a look at this, oops, this actually gives us or asks for 2 parameters, an index and the position. So those are pretty straightforward. The index is just simply the index of the element in the positions array. So you know the first element is 0, so we're going to give it 0. That's the one we're updating first, and we're then going to give it a vector 3. So if we use the ones that we had before, let's just create a new vector 3, and we use the -2 0 0. So that was the left point in the line, and we'll do the same for the right point. Set position, and we're updating element 1, so the second element, and doing the same thing again. New vector 3, and we'll say 2 0 0. So it's just going to go left to right. So those the same vectors that we used before. And just to tidy up, let's say destroy new line gen. We'll do it after 5 seconds or whatever. You don't have to do that. I don't know, it just makes me feel better. Cool. Alright. So let's have a bit of a look. A couple more things we need to do once we're back in Unity. We can see that it's now asking for the line generator prefab in the script. So let's create that prefab. Let's just take the line holder, the same one we had before, and we just drag that in, create a prefab from it, and we can get rid of the original one. Go back to the line manager and assign that object. Q. When this runs, all we should see is a line appear from left to right. There we go. And it should disappear after 5 seconds. There we go, cool, awesome. Alright, that works. So it's really that easy. You can manually set the positions like this. So obviously you could do that in a loop, you could do that however you want to, and it will quite happily update the line accordingly. Alright, so that works because we're able to manually set these 2 positions because we know that there are 2 positions in that array. What if we want to create more? So at the moment, if we tried to create, and this is sort of an important point, because if you do this wrong, it won't actually give you an error. It won't tell you anything's wrong. It'll just not work. So hopefully this will save you a bit of a headache if you do encounter this. But if you try to use more points, so let's add a few more points in. Let's recreate the box that we had before, the square. How did I do it? Yep, so top left corner, top right corner. We want the bottom right corner, which is set position. So we're going to need to do this for element 2. Once again, new vector 3. What's bottom right corner? It should be 2 minus 2. Oops, 0. I think it is. lren.set position. And we'll do this for the 3rd element. New vector 3. What will that be? Minus 2, 0. So those are our 4 points there. But once again, the array on the prefab only has 2 elements to it by default. So you could come in here and you could adjust it and all the rest. But I'm going to show you how to do it via code. I think that's going to be a better way. Sort of a better way to do that. I might turn loop on as well, just so we do get that nice square happening. Alright, so we've got those 4 there. I might show you what happens if you don't have those 4 points. So if we run this, we should get a box, but we don't. Now we fed 4 positions into it, but you'll know... Oh no, there we go, you do get an error. I stand corrected. I mustn't have seen it last time. Well, there you go. So if you get an error like that, that's simply because you're feeding 4 positions into it, but the array only has 2 elements in it. So you're getting an index error, it's out of bounds. Those elements don't exist, so you can't update them. So what do you do about that? Do you have to then recreate the array? Do you have to go through the, equals new vector 3 array, blah, blah, blah? Nope. It's nice and easy. They've actually got a thing for that too. Watch this. lren.position count equals 4. Doing that will update the array. So you now can have 4 elements to it. So if we... Oops, it's still running. So I should probably stop that running. Yeah. Quiet. And run it again. There we go. We get our square. If we actually go to the line holder up here, oops, it disappeared. Oh yeah, it destroys itself. Let's try that again. I'm going to pause it and actually show you. There we go. Alright, line holder. There you go. You can see it has this particular instance, not our prefab, has those 4 elements to it. So that's a very manual way of creating lines using the line renderer. You probably wouldn't normally do it this way because it's very defined, very hard coded. You can obviously feed it different values and come up with different patterns, but like I said, it's a very manual way of doing it. The dot set position sort of for updating individual elements if you needed to. So it might be good if you're doing that via code and you wanted to remove a point in the line, that kind of thing. You can do it this way, but there's an easier way to do things, and I think to best highlight that, let's create a couple more things. Let's add some fun stuff to this script. So I'm going to leave the spawn line generator function alone for now. I'm going to create another variable, private game object line point prefab. this is going to be an object that we'll create now. So what I'm thinking we're going to do, let's make this a bit more interesting. We're going to have a little thing that we can interact with. When we click on the screen, we're going to put a point in the game world, a little icon that we can see, and we'll create that now. But when that when we put enough of those points in, we'll then hit a key, and it's going to draw a line between all the points. I think that's what we'll create. That sounds like a fun thing to do. So I'm going to create a empty game object. Let's call it line point marker. Sounds good. And to that, I'm just going to center it. And in that, I'm going to create a 2D object. I'm going to create a sprite, just because once again I have a 2D project. I'll just leave it as new sprite, doesn't matter. What do we got? Pick one of these default sprites. So there it is. It's a little white square. You know what, that's fine, that's all I want. One final thing I'm going to do to the line point marker, I'm going to add it to a tag that I've created called point marker, or just some sort of unique tag. That's how we're going to identify the objects, so I'll chuck them on their own tag. And let's create a prefab of that. There we go, that's in the scene, and we'll get, I think that's all set up. Yep, let's get rid of that. So once again, that's going to be our little marker. We're going to put a bunch of them in the scene, hit a key, and it's going to like link them all up with a line. That was quite hard to say. Alright, and there we have it there. So that's the prefab. We should probably actually, what was that on? Line Manager, and we'll just assign the prefab to it. There we go. Okay, back in the script. Let's create a couple of controls, I'd say. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this start function. Don't need it anymore. I'm going to add the update function, and what do we want? Alright, so first thing we'll do, if we left click the mouse, let's put one of these points, line points in the world. So if input.get mouse button down, 0 for left, let's create a new vector 3. So we're going to get the mouse position. We'll say new pos equals camera dot main dot screen to world point. And I'm going to do it for the input.mouse position. If you're doing this in 3D, you may need to actually use a raycast to do that. It's very easy to get the mouse position either way. I'm sure you'll be able to find a method that works for you. The important thing is, all we're doing is getting a vector 3 of the mouse position in world space. We're just then going to simply update the Z position of it, because I don't need to worry about that. 2D, we don't need to care about that. And what else are we going to do? We'll create a function to do it, which will say create point marker, that'll do. And we're going to give it the new pos vector, and we'll create that. We'll create that now. Let's do that here. Private void create, what do I call it? Create point marker. And it will want a vector 3, which we'll call point position, or the position of the point marker. Okay, this is going to be really easy, this one. Instantiate. All we're doing is creating a copy of that line point prefab, and we're going to create it at the point position that we gave the function, the parameter, and it's going to want a rotation for it, so identity, that'll do. Just default rotation. That's that function. So when we left click, it should create a copy of that sprite in the game. I'm sure you can take me at my word for that one. I don't need to show you it happening. Okay, what else? We might want to clear them, I'd say, as well. Let's do that first. So let's say you want to delete all of the points that you've placed in the game. We'll say if input dot get mouse button down, can't talk, can't type, clear all points. That'll do. Just a simple function. We'll create that down here. Shouldn't be too hard to do. Private void clear all points. To do this, what do we want to do? Alright, so this is going to be similar to how we actually create the line. We're going to repeat a couple of these functions. So we'll just cover them simply here. We'll say game object. We're creating a temporary game object array, all points. So we're going to find every point marker in the game. Game object dot find game objects with tag, game objects with the S. Make sure the S is there. And what was the tag I used? I think it was point marker. Let me double check that. What was it? Line point marker. Where are you? point marker. Cool. Good to confirm these things, I suppose. Cool, so that's going to find every game object with that tag and chuck them all in this single array here called all points. So what do we want to do? For each game object, P for point in all points. So for every single game object that's currently in that array, just destroy it. Get rid of it. We don't want it. That's all that's going to happen. So when we left click, it's going to put one of these points in the world. It's going to spawn one in, one of the little sprite objects. And when we right click, it's going to get rid of them all. Nice and easy. Okay. What else do we want? We probably want a key to actually initiate the drawing of the line, or just something else. You could use whatever you want. I'm going to use the E key because I like the E key. We're good friends. Input.getKeyDown, and I'm going to input the E. There we go. So if we press the E key, let's say generate a new line. So we'll create a new function, generate new line. That's what the function is going to be called. Nice and easy. I'll put it down here somewhere, I reckon. Alright, we've still got the spawn line generator. Okay, how are we doing this? Private void generate new line. We haven't given it any parameters yet. I don't think it's going to need one. Should just be able to do this as is, I reckon. Yep. Okay, so generate new line. What do we want to do? Alright, let's do similar to the clear all line. Let's create a temporary array of game objects, which we're going to call, we can do the same, all points. Game object.find, oops, find game objects with, you see what I did there? Game objects with tag, point marker. Okay, game objects with tag, cool. We're finding all the points. We're going to create another temporary array as well, and that's going to be a vector3 array. So all point positions, we're going to store the positions of all the point objects in this, and we're going to create a new, it's going to equal a new vector3 array, and the length of that array is going to be equal to the all, if I could type, there we go, all points dot length. So the vector3 array is going to be the same length as the game object array, because there should be, theoretically, as many positions as there are objects. Cool. Alright, let's do a simple check here, so to actually make sure that there's more than, so if all points.length is greater than or equal to 2, could do greater than 1, whatever. And we're just doing this to make sure, because a line really needs 2 points to be a line, otherwise it's just a dot, I guess, or nothing at all in this case. So we're just doing that to basically make sure that the generate new line, that we have more than 1 point in the world. And we'll just add an else just to catch that. Debug log need 2 or more points to draw a line. Just a little error in case something goes wrong. Okay, so if we do have more than 2 points, what do we want to do? We want to get the positions of those points. So let's do a simple for loop. For in I equals 0, while I is less than all points dot length, increment I by 1. So that should be pretty straightforward. We're just basically running through the, or we're going to be running through the all points array. We're just using I as a reference. So we say all point positions I. So element I in the all point positions array is going to equal all points I. So the element I in all points is transform dot position. So we're just getting the vector3 from each of those objects, their transform position, and storing it to that array. Cool, and I think once we're done, we're actually going to spawn the line generator. I think that's all we need to do there. Now, it doesn't take any parameters at the moment, so we're going to need to give it that array. Let's put that in there. It won't like it, but we'll do it for now. And we're just going to give it all point positions. Don't worry too much about that. Alright, let's come down to the spawn line generator, the function that we wrote before. And this is actually going to be really easy, because what we're going to do, if we come up here and we're going to get it to accept that all points positions array. So we're just going to say that it takes a vector3 array, I don't know, what will we call it, line points, that'll do, something like that. Yep, Q. Let's get rid of all this. We're not going to be setting any of this manually. Now, let's go back to, I think the original's still set on 2 elements, isn't it? Yes, cool. Doesn't matter, I just want to make sure. So I'm not going to do this. Once again, we don't know how many lines or how many points or how many positions, I should use the correct terminology, my apologies. We don't know how many positions we're going to have in the beginning. So we could click and create 100, or we could click and create 4, or anything, doesn't matter. So we're going to need to actually check for that. So we can use the position count quite easily. Same thing as before, we're just going to say that the amount of positions in this line renderer is going to equal line points, that's the vector3 array we're giving it up here, dot length. Easy peasy. Now you're probably like, okay, how are we going to do this? Are we going to chuck it in a loop? We're going to iterate through the line points array, and for each one we're going to set position count, element blah to blah. Nope, even easier than that. Seriously, this is just going to be, you're just going to laugh. You ready? We're getting the line renderer, and we're going to do set positions with an S. Set positions. And we're just going to give it the line points array. Done. That's it. I'm pretty sure. I reckon that should all work, assuming I've done everything correctly. Let's have a bit of a look. So, actually, before we do, we'll just quickly go over this again, just to make sure. A quick recap. We've got the 2 variables. We've got the line generator prefab and the line point prefab. We should know what those objects are by now. In the update function, we're just doing 3 things. If the player left mouse clicks, we just create a new one of these line point objects in the world. Yes, we do it at the mouse position. We set its Z-pos to 0, and we then create a point marker. So yeah, we spawn that object in, we do it here, at that position. Then if the player right clicks, we just simply find every single one of those point prefabs that have been spawned, and we delete them by going through that array that we create. And then we have, if the player presses the E key, they actually do the fun stuff, where they generate a new line using those points. So they do that by finding all the points, by creating a new array of vector 3s. We then do a quick check to make sure that there's more than 2 points in the array. And, sorry, not more than 2, as in 2 or more. We then go through and we just basically create a position array, or an array of vector 3s using all those objects, which we then pass to a final function which spawns the actual line generator and creates the line. It does that by receiving that array of vector 3s. It then spawns a new line generator, stores a reference to the line renderer. It then sets the position count, so the amount of positions, to be the same as the length of that array, and it then runs a simple one-line function to basically set all those positions based on that array, and then it destroys itself after 5 seconds. Really easy stuff. Hopefully we should see it working if I've set everything up correctly. I might just have a quick look at the line manager. The 2 prefabs are there. The line point marker is tagged. Actually, that's a thought. Let's go to the line holder. We might want to alter that order in layer because we're using a sprite. If they're both on 0, there's a chance that line could draw under the sprite. So let's just set that to something a bit higher. 5. This sprite's probably set to 0 by default anyway. Cool, it is. Alright, if we run this, we should hopefully see the desired behavior. Let's have a look. So if we click, it creates those points, and if we press the E key, it links them together. It is looping currently because they have that loop turned on. We can disable that. Let's turn that off and repeat it, and you'll see it doesn't loop back to the start. That's, nothing too fancy. You can actually control that from the script as well, I believe. Let's have a look. Let's see what it is. I haven't tested this, so loop, there you go. Guessing it's as easy as doing that. Just test that out, set it to loop by default. Don't know if that's going to work or if it's going to break because I changed the script. It's going to break because I changed the script. Click, 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 and it shouldn't loop. It didn't, even though it is by default, yeah. So changing the loop is as simple as just simply saying the LineRenderer.loop equals true or false as you want. I think that's about all we need to worry about for now, guys. That's a cool little place to get you started. There's some cool little stuff going on there, some cool little things, some some fun things to play with. Hopefully it should give you something to work with. So drawing a line from point to point is really easy. Like if you wanted a unit to point to a certain location, you could just simply tell it to draw from its transform position as the starting point to the target position as the end point. It's really not too complicated, and you can see here how easily you can just add to arrays or just whatever vector 3s you want to feed into it. You can. It's really quite straightforward. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you do want me to cover anything more in regards to line renderers and that sort of thing, or if you think I could have been a bit more detailed, leave me a comment, send me an email, jump in Discord. As I say all the time, there's so many ways to get in contact. Please do. I love hearing from you guys. I love talking to you guys, answering questions and trying to help out, all that fun stuff. I do have a Patreon. Check out the links below, and thank you to my supporters that are already on there. You guys are fantastic, and you're going to get sick of hearing this, but I don't care. Too bad, you signed up, that's what you got. And yeah, if you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch you around for another video sometime later. Thanks guys, see ya.